The WNBA thought they were ready for Caitlin Clark. They thought they understood her impact, her influence, her power. They thought she was just a rising star who'd bring in ratings, sell a few jerseys, shake up a few teams, maybe generate some highlight reels. But what they didn't realize, what they never saw coming, is that Caitlin wasn't just stepping into the league. She was stepping in with receipts, with proof, and with two explosive signs that exposed the league's biggest weaknesses right in front of millions of viewers. And now, the WNBA isn't just uncomfortable. They're panicking. Because within days of Caitlin joining the pros, two major cracks in the league's foundation became impossible to hide. These weren't small oversights, little mistakes, or harmless PR blunders. No. These were signs that the league had been unprepared, overwhelmed, and caught completely off guard by the massive wave Caitlin Clark brought with her. A wave so big, so loud, and so relentless that even executives behind the scenes could no longer pretend everything was fine. It all started with one moment, a tiny, barely noticeable moment that eagle-eyed fans caught instantly. A look, a reaction, a slip-up that revealed exactly how threatened the league quietly was. Then came the second sign. A situation so humiliating, so unexpected, and so revealing that insiders claim the WNBA held an emergency meeting afterward. And Caitlin? She didn't even have to say anything. Her performance, her presence, her popularity, that was the exposure. That was the warning shot. And that was the moment the WNBA realized, we're not ready for her. Tonight, we're breaking down the two signs Caitlin Clark exposed, the ones the WNBA desperately tried to hide, the ones insiders are scrambling to explain, and the ones that prove the league is on the edge of a complete internal meltdown. Keep watching, because the part you think is shocking, it's nothing compared to what's coming next. From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto a college court, people knew she was different. Not just talented, transformational. Not just a scorer, a phenomenon. She wasn't playing basketball. She was rewriting the entire rhythm of the sport. Every three-pointer she launched, every no-look pass she threaded through traffic, every record she shattered became another reason the world couldn't look away. By the time she declared for the WNBA, the hype surrounding her wasn't hype anymore. It was destiny. But with destiny comes disruption. And with disruption comes panic. Long before Caitlin ever crossed the threshold into the professional league, executives were already whispering behind closed doors. They were excited, yes. Thrilled by the ticket sales. Thrilled by the media exposure. Thrilled by the millions of new eyeballs watching the WNBA for the very first time. But beneath that excitement was something darker. Fear. A fear they thought they could hide. A fear they thought nobody would notice. Because Caitlin wasn't just bringing in fans. She was exposing everything the league had ignored for years. You could feel the shift the moment she arrived. Her games weren't just sold out. They were events, and scalpers were charging NBA prices. Reporters were lining hallways like paparazzi. Entire arenas were chanting her name before she even touched the floor. This wasn't normal. This wasn't typical. This wasn't the WNBA as people had known it. This was something bigger. And deep down, the league understood that once someone like Caitlin walked in, everything outdated, everything poorly organized, everything underfunded, everything neglected. It would all be dragged into the spotlight whether they liked it or not. Because Caitlin wasn't just a player. She was a walking microscope. Fans noticed everything. Media noticed everything. Sponsors noticed everything. And for the first time, the WNBA couldn't just gloss over their flaws. The pressure was building even before she signed her first rookie contract. And analysts were already pointing out logistical issues. Travel discomfort, inconsistent facilities, lack of resources compared to the men's league, and marketing problems that had been ignored for decades. But the WNBA assumed they had time. They assumed Caitlyn's transition into the league would be smooth, gentle, gradual. They assumed wrong. Because Caitlyn entered the league like a storm, fast, loud, electric, impossible to control. Every highlight clip went viral. Every stat comparison triggered debates. Every quote she gave generated headlines. She had barely put on her new jersey before the WNBA realized they were not prepared, and neither were the players. Many veterans welcomed her warmly, celebrating the attention she brought, the new sponsorships pouring in, the historic TV ratings. But some didn't. Some resented the way she instantly dominated the spotlight. Some felt overshadowed. Some believed they were being erased. The tension wasn't always obvious, but you could see it in small moments. Facial expressions, subtle comments, body language that shifted when her name came up. The WNBA wanted to present a united front, but internally, this was becoming a pressure cooker. Because Caitlyn represented more than talent. She represented change. And change terrifies people who were comfortable with the way things were. The first sign of trouble became obvious during her early practices. Teammates whispered that media attention was overwhelming. Staff members said requests were at levels they'd never experienced. Journalists claimed her arrival changed the tone of interviews. And fans? They knew something was off when the league began making rushed adjustments around her schedule. Suddenly expanding media zones, staffing more security, and addressing problems that had existed for years but were ignored until she walked through the door. Then came the ratings. Every time Caitlyn was on the court, the numbers broke another record. Every time she wasn't, viewership dipped instantly. Networks began rearranging time slots just to air her games. Sponsors demanded her face in every promo package. It became obvious, painfully obvious, that Caitlyn Clark wasn't just the league's newest star. She was the league's biggest asset, and that terrified them. Because one player should never have the power to expose an entire league's foundation. But Caitlyn did, effortlessly. And the league knew it. And she forced them to confront uncomfortable questions. Why weren't they better prepared for global attention? Why weren't facilities upgraded sooner? Why weren't marketing efforts already massive? Why was the infrastructure so fragile that one superstar could shake it? But the most uncomfortable question of all was this: could the WNBA keep up with her? Because once Caitlyn arrived, fans were no longer comparing WNBA games to each other. They were comparing them to her college career. They were comparing them to NBA-level production. They were comparing them to a standard the league wasn't sure it could meet. Then came the teammates themselves, caught between admiration and resentment. Caitlyn's work ethic was intense. Her impact was undeniable. But the dynamic was complicated. Some saw her as a blessing. Others saw her as a threat. Some elevated their game around her. Others withdrew. And inside that emotional storm, the first sign she exposed quietly ignited. Not a dramatic moment, not a press conference, a look someone gave her, a reaction caught on camera. A slip of emotion the league tried to downplay until fans ripped it apart online. Then came the second sign, the one that sent executives scrambling for solutions. A logistical failure, a professional embarrassment. A moment that showed Caitlyn's arrival didn't just boost the league, it exposed its weakest link. And that is when panic officially began. Because Caitlyn Clark didn't just shine. She didn't just elevate the sport. She didn't just bring millions of viewers. She revealed something the WNBA never wanted the public to see. They weren't ready for this level of success. Not structurally. See, not financially, not culturally, not emotionally. And the two signs she exposed were just the beginning. The real conflict didn't begin when Caitlyn Clark stepped into her first WNBA practice, or when she signed her rookie deal, or even when she made her professional debut. No. The real conflict began the moment the world witnessed something the league hoped nobody would notice. Something subtle, something small, something that lasted maybe 3 seconds on camera, but exposed a truth so embarrassing, so revealing, and so damaging that the clip immediately went viral. It happened during a post-practice scrimmage, one of those controlled, safe sessions the WNBA carefully curates to make everything look polished. Cameras were rolling. Coaches stood stiff, smiling. Players pretended to be relaxed. And Caitlin, still adapting to the new environment, was running drills with veteran teammates. But then it happened. The first sign. A sign fans caught instantly. Caitlin made a perfectly timed pass. A pass she had hit thousands of times in college. The kind of pass her Iowa teammates always expected. Smooth, instinctive, elite-level vision. But when she delivered it, the veteran receiving the ball froze, fumbled, and instantly glared at Caitlin with an expression that said it all. "Who do you think you are?" It was quick, barely noticeable, but unmistakably hostile. The clip spread like wildfire. Fans weren't stupid. They saw the micro-expression, the competitiveness tinged with resentment, the tension simmering underneath. And they started asking questions. Why did she look at Caitlin like that? Is there jealousy on the team? Are the vets feeling threatened? Is the WNBA really welcoming her? TikTok exploded with slowed-down breakdowns, lip-reading attempts, and frame-by-frame analysis of the teammate's face. Thousands of comments poured in. That wasn't a mistake. That was attitude. She wasn't ready for Caitlin's speed. Somebody feels insecure. But the truth wasn't just insecurity. It was panic. Because Caitlin wasn't just a rookie. She was a rookie with more fame, more money, more attention, and more influence than almost the entire league combined. Veterans who had spent years grinding for recognition suddenly found themselves overshadowed by a 22-year-old who hadn't played a single WNBA game yet. And that resentment wasn't subtle. It was palpable. But the tension didn't stop there. During a later scrimmage, another moment surfaced that sent fans spiraling deeper into speculation. Caitlin made yet another elite-level play. A deep three, smooth release, classic Clark confidence, and instead of celebration, instead of encouragement, instead of even mild acknowledgement, there was silence. Dead silence. No high fives, no cheers, no good shot, just stares. The second the clip hit social media, the narrative became unavoidable. Caitlin wasn't being welcomed. She was being tolerated. Barely. And that's when the first twist struck. Far bigger than a mean look, far deeper than a hostile vibe. Because suddenly, insiders began dropping bombshells. A former player tweeted, "New rookies usually get hazed a little, but this is different." A WNBA journalist posted, "I've covered this league for 12 years. I've never seen teammates look this uneasy about a rookie before." But the comment that really caused chaos came from someone allegedly inside the organization. "It's not jealousy, it's fear. Caitlin is exposing how far behind the league is." Fans went wild, because now it wasn't just about teammate dynamics. It was about systemic exposure. Players weren't just uncomfortable with Caitlin. The league was uncomfortable with Caitlin. And the second sign, the one that sent executives scrambling into panic mode, hit only days later. It began during travel. The WNBA has been criticized for years for not providing charter flights for teams. Players have complained loudly. Fans have echoed their frustrations. But the league insisted it wasn't financially possible. Until Caitlin arrived. Because when she stepped into that airport, surrounded by crowds, cameras, swarms of fans, and an entourage so large it was difficult to control, the WNBA's biggest weakness was exposed in broad daylight. The league was not built to handle a superstar of her magnitude. Videos showed Caitlin walking through public terminals like a full-blown celebrity surrounded by fans pushing forward, security struggling to contain the chaos, children crying, trying to get pictures, reporters elbowing their way through the crowd, fans chanting her name so loudly other passengers stopped and stared. It looked like a Beatles arrival moment. Except the WNBA had no infrastructure to manage it, and fans immediately flooded social media. This is not safe. She needs security. They need charter flights now. The league wasn't ready for this level of attention. Even former WNBA stars chimed in, shocked at the lack of preparation. But then the story got worse, because a source revealed that Caitlyn's team had requested upgraded travel conditions due to security concerns. And were denied. The internet erupted. She's your biggest draw. You're risking her safety. This league is backwards. Suddenly, all eyes turned to the WNBA executives. And insiders leaked that emergency meetings were held behind closed doors to discuss one terrifying realization. Caitlin Clark had exposed the league's biggest logistical flaw, their inability to support viral-level superstardom. The panic behind the scenes was real. Sponsors were pressuring them, networks were pressuring them, fans were demanding solutions, even players were privately calling out executives. And Caitlin? She wasn't even trying to expose anything. Her mere presence, her popularity, her aura was enough. Then came the first major twist. A new leaked memo began circulating online, allegedly from a WNBA front office email thread. The memo included one line that instantly broke the internet. Clark's impact is creating infrastructure strain we were not prepared for. Infrastructure strain. That's corporate talk for, we are overwhelmed. We cannot handle this. We underestimated her. We miscalculated everything. And the most embarrassing part? This memo wasn't from last season. It wasn't from preseason planning. It was from this week, and which meant the WNBA wasn't just struggling. They were drowning. Caitlin Clark didn't walk into the WNBA and fit the system. She walked in and exposed the system. And the league didn't know how to respond. But what happened next? What insiders began whispering about in private calls? What players started hinting at on social media? What coaches accidentally leaked to reporters? That was the moment everything flipped upside down. Because behind all the tension, behind all the silent stares, behind all the logistical panic, behind all the emergency memos, something else was brewing inside the WNBA. Something deeper, something political, something personal. A brewing internal divide. And Caitlin was at the center of it. The WNBA thought the tension was manageable. They thought the awkward stares, the passive-aggressive comments, and the uncomfortable body language could be brushed aside as rookie adjustments. They thought the panic over travel and security could be softened with a few PR statements. They thought Caitlin Clark's massive impact would eventually stabilize into something predictable. They were wrong. Because what started as quiet discomfort soon erupted into a full-blown internal crisis, one that exposed the fault lines inside the league, not just between players and executives, but between players themselves. It began during a nationally televised scrimmage that wasn't meant to reveal anything. But it did. Caitlin stepped onto the court, confident, focused, ready to compete. The arena was buzzing. Half the people in the stands were wearing her jersey. The cameras couldn't stop finding her. And the commentators kept reminding viewers that this was the most anticipated rookie arrival in years. But as soon as the scrimmage started, something was off. The energy felt strange. The spacing felt forced. Teammates hesitated when passing her the ball. Some avoided her completely, and every time she drove to the basket, it felt like defenders were going extra hard, not to test her skills, but to test her toughness, to send a message. Then came the moment that blew everything open. Caitlin made a cut to the basket, received a beautiful cross-court pass, and just as she went up for a layup, a veteran player shouldered her midair. Hard. Caitlin crashed to the floor, sliding across the court while the crowd gasped. The foul was obvious, excessive, aggressive, and the veteran didn't even help her up. She walked away, like adjusting her jersey like nothing happened. The camera zoomed in on Caitlin's face. She wasn't crying. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't scared. She was angry. And that expression, that slow exhale, that controlled fire in her eyes, exposed the second sign more clearly than anything else. Some WNBA players didn't just fear her. They resented her, deeply. Social media exploded instantly. That wasn't a foul, that was a message. They don't want her to shine. They're threatened. That was dirty. Why are they targeting the rookie like this? But what the cameras didn't catch, what fans did catch from cell phone recordings, was the heated confrontation that followed. Caitlin stood up, walked straight toward the veteran, and said something under her breath. The veteran snapped back. Teammates rushed in between them. The coaches intervened. The crowd erupted in chatter. And then someone sitting near the court captured the moment that went instantly viral. The veteran pointed a finger at Caitlin and yelled, "You not the savior of this league." Fans lost their minds. Those 8 words revealed everything: the fear, the insecurity, the resentment, the panic, because Caitlin Clark was being positioned as the savior. Not by herself, not by her teammates, but by fans, networks, sponsors, analysts, and half the sports world. And the WNBA was never ready for what that would do to locker room chemistry. Insiders reported that some players felt overshadowed, that the sudden Caitlin Clark effect minimized the careers of veterans who fought for respect for years. Others felt disrespected by the media's obsession with her. And still others felt pressured, fearing that if Caitlin didn't succeed, the league's growth might stall, and they would be blamed for it. But then things got even more explosive. A leaked recording, allegedly from a team meeting, began circulating online. In the clip, you could hear a frustrated voice saying, "We can't let this turn into the Caitlin Clark show." Another voice replied, "It already is." Fans were stunned. How could the league's most successful moment cause this much tension internally? But the biggest shock wasn't the resentment. It wasn't the dirty foul. It wasn't the heated confrontation. It was what happened next. And a major sports outlet published a report titled, "WNBA Execs Concerned About Locker Room Divide Following Clark Arrival." The article quoted anonymous executives who revealed the truth the league tried desperately to hide. Some players feel Caitlin's visibility threatens their status. There is concern certain veterans will target her physically. We underestimated the emotional impact her arrival would have. This wasn't a rookie adjustment issue. This wasn't casual competitiveness. This was panic. Caitlin Clark had not just exposed the WNBA's logistical flaws. She exposed a cultural divide. A divide between old guard versus new wave, veteran pride versus rookie superstardom, history versus momentum, legacy versus future. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, a second leaked memo hit the internet. This one was marked internal use only. The memo described concerns about player hostility, unsafe play tactics, social media backlash, fragmented locker room dynamics, the need for immediate intervention procedures. One line sent shockwaves through the sports community. If tensions continue escalating, we risk losing control of the narrative and compromising player safety. Player safety. That's how seriously they were taking this. The league was panicking, because for the first time ever, they were facing pressure from all directions. Fans demanding more protection for Caitlin players, demanding fairness. Executives demanding unity. Sponsors demanding stability. Networks demanding ratings. Coaches demanding focus. And in the middle of it all, Caitlin Clark, a young superstar who never asked to be the center of a storm, but became one simply by existing. But the shocking reveal wasn't the tension. It wasn't the divide. It wasn't the aggression. It was the truth insiders finally admitted. Caitlin Clark is bigger than the WNBA, and the league isn't ready for someone they can't control. Because her fame, her impact, her global fan base, and her financial influence are larger than anything the WNBA has ever experienced. Fans aren't watching the league. They're watching her. Networks aren't bidding for teams. They're bidding for her games. Sponsors aren't signing general deals. They're signing Caitlin-specific deals. And the WNBA finally realized they don't control the narrative anymore. Caitlin does. And that's the exact moment panic turned into desperation. Once the internal tension leaked, once fans realized Caitlin Clark wasn't just stepping into a league, but stepping into a storm, the internet didn't just react. It detonated. Overnight, social media turned into the loudest, most heated, most chaotic courtroom the WNBA has ever faced, and every user took a side. Because this wasn't just sports news anymore. This had turned into a cultural war, old versus new, legacy versus spotlight, veterans versus phenom, tradition versus disruption. Within minutes of the leaked clips circulating, hashtags took over the entire sports community. Hashtag protect Caitlin Clark. Hashtag WNBA jealousy is real. Hashtag let the rookie hoop. Hashtag this league is panicking Twitter. Spaces filled faster than playoff arenas. Thousands of fans screaming, debating, defending, accusing. The conversations weren't calm. They weren't polite. They were seismic. As one fan said, "They're treating Caitlin like she's the enemy just because she brought success they couldn't." Another replied, "That foul wasn't basketball, that was resentment." A third commenter said the line that went instantly viral. The league wasn't ready for growth. They were ready for comfort. Caitlin destroyed that comfort. And suddenly, the narrative shifted from rookie criticism to league criticism. Then ESPN analysts jumped in, some visibly uncomfortable with the tension they were now forced to analyze. One veteran analyst said, "I've covered this league for 20 years. I've never seen players react this emotionally to a rising star." Another added, "There is a clear divide between players who want Caitlin to succeed and players who feel threatened by her presence." And perhaps the most chilling comment came from a former WNBA champion. "Caitlin's not the problem. Caitlin is the mirror, and some people don't like their reflection." Fans clipped that moment instantly. It became a rallying cry. But while analysts debated the locker room dynamic, celebrities weighed in too. And that is when the WNBA officially lost control of the narrative. A famous NBA superstar tweeted, "Somebody needs to make sure that rookie is safe. I'm seeing some dirty energy out there." A legendary women's college coach uploaded a cryptic post. "When competition becomes hostility, then you lose the essence of the game." A pop star with 50 million followers posted, "I don't even watch basketball, but why are they attacking that girl for being good?" And when celebrities get involved, the story becomes too big to hide. Suddenly, mainstream news outlets, the ones that barely covered the WNBA before Caitlin arrived, started publishing headlines like, "Is jealousy tearing apart the WNBA?" Caitlin Clark's arrival sparks internal panic across league. Fans demand league protection after aggressive foul on rookie phenomenon. Nobody was defending the league. Nobody was defending the aggressive play. Nobody was defending the tension. Everyone saw what was happening, and they were done being quiet about it. TikTok creators made breakdown videos, dramatized reenactments, slow-motion analysis, and tearful commentary about the pressure Caitlin was under. One creator said, "Imagine being 22, beloved worldwide, and walking into a room where half the people want you to fail." Another creator played the scrimmage clip and added, "That wasn't defense, that was a message, and the message was ugly." Even parents of young fans spoke out. "My daughter watches Caitlin for inspiration. Seeing players bully her sends the wrong message." But the reaction wasn't just public. The industry reacted too. Sponsors were alarmed. Networks were concerned. Brands didn't like the optics. A sports marketing executive leaked this. Caitlin is the biggest financial opportunity the WNBA has ever had. If she gets hurt because of targeted aggression, yet the league will crumble. Another insider said, there are discussions behind the scenes about increasing her security and monitoring game aggression. The rookie is now the league's most valuable asset. Period. And the wildest part? Some WNBA executives quietly agreed with the fans. An anonymous source told a reporter, there is resentment. We knew it would happen. We underestimated how intense it would be. Then came the most explosive industry reaction of all. A private email thread between TV network executives leaked, showing they were afraid the hostility toward Caitlin could damage viewership. If fans believe the league is mistreating her, ratings may drop significantly. We need a plan to stabilize the narrative before next broadcast. In other words, the WNBA wasn't just panicking internally. The entire industry was panicking with them. Because Caitlin wasn't just a player, she was a symbol of change, a symbol of growth, a symbol of pressure the league had never faced. And every aggressive foul, every glare, every whispered comment, every leaked memo, it wasn't just criticism. It was evidence. Evidence that Caitlin Clark had exposed two signs that were too big, too loud, and too dangerous to ignore. The league wasn't prepared for her success, and some players weren't prepared to share the spotlight with her. But the final blow, the reaction that left the entire world holding its breath, came from Caitlin herself. After all the chaos, after all the tension, after all the viral moments, Caitlin Clark finally broke her silence. But what she said, what she implied, what she hinted at, it wasn't calm. It wasn't casual. It wasn't safe. It was a warning, a quiet one, but a warning nonetheless. And that's where everything shifts again. Just when the internet believed the narrative had reached its boiling point, just when fans were demanding accountability and analysts were calling out hostility, just when the WNBA thought the worst of the PR disaster had passed. The story took a turn so sharp, so unexpected, and so explosive that it reshaped the entire conversation in one sentence. Because Caitlin Clark, the calm one, the composed one, the media-trained phenom who rarely shows cracks, finally spoke out. And instead of diffusing the situation, she ignited it. Reporters surrounded her after practice, scrambling to get a reaction to the viral clip of the aggressive foul. They expected the usual Caitlin response. Humble, quiet, diplomatic, polished. They expected something like, it's just basketball, or we're competing, or everything is fine. But this time, Caitlin didn't smile. She didn't dodge. She didn't sugarcoat. She looked directly into the camera and said, this league has a lot more going on than people think. Silence. Actual silence. Every reporter froze. Not because of what she said, but because of what she implied. This wasn't about a foul. This wasn't about a teammate glaring at her. This wasn't about rookie pressure. This was about something deeper. The clip went viral in seconds. Fans replayed it obsessively, analyzing the tone of her voice, the tension in her jaw, the look in her eyes. Something was off. Something she was holding back. And then she added the sentence that sent shockwaves through the entire sports world. I'm just here to play basketball, but not everybody wants that. That was it. The detonator. The line that exposed everything without naming names. Fans erupted. Who doesn't want her to play? Is she talking about players, coaches, execs? She just confirmed everything we suspected. TikTok creators broke down the clip for hours. The micro-expressions, the pauses, the forced control in her voice. One creator rewound the moment frame by frame, saying, she's shaking slightly, she's angry, and she's scared to say more. But the real chaos began when insiders started reacting to Caitlin's statement. A reporter tweeted, that wasn't a rookie speaking. And that was someone who has seen things behind the scenes. Another insider said, "Caitlyn is hinting at a culture problem. This is bigger than hostility. This is systemic." Suddenly, the entire sports world wasn't asking about the foul. They were asking about the league. But the twist didn't stop there. Hours after Caitlyn's statement went viral, a hidden detail emerged. Something even more shocking than her quote. A journalist revealed, Caitlyn requested additional security for upcoming games. The WNBA said nothing. Coaches said nothing. Teammates stayed silent. But the silence said everything. Because security upgrades are not standard for rookies. They're not even standard for veterans. They're only used when a player is at risk. So fans panicked. Why does Caitlyn need extra protection? Who is threatening her? What is happening behind the scenes? Is there a dangerous divide in the league? Then came the anonymous message, the one that broke open the real twist. A burner account claiming to know players on multiple teams tweeted, "There's tension y'all haven't even seen yet. Caitlyn is exposing 2 signs, but there's a third one coming." A third sign, bigger, darker, more revealing than anything before. The message continued. Some veterans are upset about the direction of the league. They think it's becoming the Caitlyn Clark League. They're pushing back harder behind closed doors than anyone realizes. And then, the message ended with, "You think that foul was bad? Wait until the season really starts." The internet lost its mind. Are they targeting her? Is the league trying to control her success? This is bigger than jealousy. This is sabotage. And just when fans thought the situation couldn't get more explosive, another insider joined the conversation. This time from the business side. A leaked email from a marketing executive stated, "If we don't resolve internal tensions, we risk losing the very audience Caitlyn brought in. Losing the audience, losing the money, losing the momentum. This wasn't just drama. This was a crisis." And yet, the most shocking part? Caitlyn knew. She wasn't blindsided. She wasn't naive. She wasn't pretending everything was fine. She saw the divide. She felt the hostility. She sensed the fear and pressure the league was under. And her final statement during the interview, the one most people missed, was the real cliffhanger. A reporter asked her, "Do you feel supported here?" Caitlyn paused, looked away, exhaled. Then she said quietly, "Ask me again in a few months." Fans froze. A few months? What's going to happen in a few months? What does she know? Suddenly, the world realized. Caitlyn Clark wasn't just reacting to hostility. She was foreshadowing something the WNBA is terrified the public will eventually see, something players are whispering about privately, something executives are desperately trying to control. But now, it's too late. The 2 signs she exposed were just the beginning. The third sign, the one insiders keep hinting is coming, may be the one that breaks the league wide open. And now that everything is out in the open, the tension, the resentment, the hostility, the panic inside the WNBA, the viral foul, the locker room divide, the executives scrambling behind the scenes, the 2 signs Caitlyn Clark exposed, and the third sign insiders swear is coming. We are standing right at the edge of the biggest storyline in women's basketball history. Because Caitlyn didn't just disrupt a league. She didn't just break records. She didn't just bring in fans and money and ratings the WNBA has never seen before. She exposed something much deeper. A league that wasn't ready. A system that wasn't prepared. And a group of players, not all but enough, who feel threatened by the arrival of a generational force. So now the question becomes, what happens next? Will the WNBA adjust? Will locker rooms unite? Will players embrace the momentum she brings? Or will resentment grow? Will tensions rise? Will the dirty plays escalate once the season begins? Because if this is how players reacted during a scrimmage, what happens when the games actually matter? That's why I need you, right now, to scroll down and drop your opinion, because your voice in this conversation is shaping the national narrative. Do you think the WNBA is panicking because Caitlin is too popular? Are the players jealous? Are the executives overwhelmed? Was that foul just physical basketball? Or was it a warning shot? And what do you think the mysterious third sign is? The one insiders say will shake the league even more. Comment your theories. Call out the receipts you noticed. Tell us where you stand. Team Caitlin? Team veterans? Not team, this league needs an intervention? And before you go, you know what's coming next. This story is nowhere near finished. More tension is brewing. More leaks are coming. More insiders are preparing to talk. So hit like if you want the next chapter. Hit subscribe to stay ahead of the WNBA drama. Turn on notifications because when the third sign drops, when the next viral clip hits, when Caitlin Clark becomes the center of another scandal, you'll want to be the first to know. Trust me, this saga is just getting started.